close your eyes for a second. Imagine it's late. Really late. A man and his wife just drove 3 hours into the mountains. No signal. No GPS. No other cars on the road. Just headlights cutting through fog, and trees so dense they swallow the light completely. They reach the cabin. They unlock the door. And the moment they step inside, something shifts. Not the temperature. Not the smell. Something else. Like the cabin was already occupied, and whatever was inside just moved to make room for them. They tell themselves they're tired. They tell themselves it's just an old building. But that night, lying in the dark, the feeling comes again. Awareness. Like something in that room already knew their names. And then, at 3:17 in the morning, his phone lights up. Airplane mode. No signal. No Wi-Fi. Siri activates on its own and speaks one sentence.
Mara is here.
They should have left that second, but they didn't. And what came home with them was so much worse than what they heard that night. I debated telling you this story for weeks, because the man who lived it, he didn't want it shared. But some stories don't let you stay quiet. This is one of them. His name was Ethan. And before I tell you what happened to him, you need to understand something. Ethan was not someone who believed in things he couldn't explain. He never was. But what found him that night in those mountains? It didn't stay there. 2 days before everything changed, Ethan and his wife Sarah were sitting in their apartment, completely burned out. Non-stop notifications, deadlines, noise that never stopped. Even at 2 a.m., Sarah looked at him one night and said,
We need to leave. Somewhere with no signal. No internet, nothing.
So they booked a cabin, deep in the mountains, isolated, off the grid, or so they thought. The drive up felt wrong from the start. Small things. The kind you talk yourself out of. An hour in, the GPS froze. Mid-route, the blue line just stopped, like it had decided it wasn't going any further. Then the signal dropped. 1 bar, then none. Sarah squeezed his arm. Guess we're officially off the grid, she said. Ethan tried to smile back, but he was already noticing something else. The deeper they drove, the quieter it got. Not peaceful quiet, pressing quiet. No wind, no birds, no highway hum, just tires on gravel, and their own breathing filling the car. When they reached the cabin, the silence felt like a presence. The place looked exactly like the photos. Wooden exterior, tall trees packed too close, windows dark, reflecting nothing but forest. Inside, old wood, dust, and something underneath. Faint, almost sweet. The kind of smell that stays in places people stopped visiting. That's when Ethan noticed the mirrors. There were more than necessary. One in the hallway, tall, slightly tilted. One in the bedroom, mounted directly across from the bed. One near the stairs, hung oddly low. Like it was meant for someone shorter. No frames, no decoration, just plain glass, placed like habit. Like someone had a reason. He didn't think much of it then. They unpacked, made dinner, sat on the porch until dark. No phones, no internet. Exactly what they came for. That first night, while Sarah showered, Ethan opened the wardrobe in the bedroom. It creaked sharply, the sound cutting through the cabin like something had been waiting for a reason to make noise. Inside, empty. Except for one thing. On the wooden panel at the back, just above the floor, a groove worn into the wood. Smooth, repeated, deliberate, like something had pressed against the same spot over and over again, like fingers. or a forehead. He stared at it longer than he meant to. Then, the wardrobe door slowly swung shut. Not slammed, not a draft, just closed. Steady and patient, like a decision. He pulled it back open, checked behind the door, checked the floor. Nothing. Old hinges, he told himself. Settling wood. When Sarah came out, he didn't mention it. Lying in bed that night, the darkness felt thick. The kind that makes you aware of your own breathing, of every tiny sound the cabin makes as it settles. That's when the feeling started. Not fear, awareness. The specific awareness of being watched, not from outside, not from the doorway, from somewhere in the same room. Ethan turned his head slowly. The bedroom mirror reflected the bed. Reflected Sarah sleeping beside him. Reflected him. But something about it felt off. Not wrong enough to name. Just wrong enough to notice. The reflection looked delayed, like it was catching up half a second too late. He blinked. The mirror blinked back at exactly the same time. Then his phone, lying face down on the nightstand, vibrated once. He didn't move. The screen lit up. Locked. And in the mirror's dark reflection, he watched something shift. A slow movement. That didn't come from Sarah, and didn't come from him. He closed his eyes. He didn't open them again until morning. The second night, at 1 a.m., Ethan woke up with no warning. No nightmare. No loud noise. Just a sudden, absolute certainty. He was no longer alone in his own head. He lay completely still, listening. That's when he heard it, scraping. Not outside. Inside. Slow. Deliberate. Like fingernails dragging across the wall just behind the headboard. One stroke. Pause. Another stroke. Pause. A third. Then silence. The silence that followed felt heavier than the sound itself, like whatever was making it had stopped, because it knew he was awake. He counted his breaths. Nothing else moved. Eventually, exhaustion pulled him back under. Morning made the fear feel embarrassing. Sunlight through the trees. Birds back in the forest. Sarah laughing while making coffee, teasing him about how tense he looked. Bad dreams? She asked. He nodded. He didn't tell her about the scraping. That afternoon, they hiked. Took photos. Normal things. The kind that create proof that everything is fine. That evening, scrolling through Sarah's phone, his stomach dropped. One photo stopped him cold. It was taken through the living room window, trees reflected in the glass behind them. Sarah stood beside him, smiling directly at the camera, but his reflection wasn't facing the camera. It was turned inward, eyes fixed on something deeper inside the cabin. Not blurred, not distorted, intentional. He felt heat crawl up the back of his neck. "That's weird," Sarah said quietly. He zoomed in, his face, his jacket, his posture, but the expression, empty. Empty's face, like it was waiting for something to begin. He locked the phone without a word. That night, the footsteps started. They were already in bed, lights off when they heard them. Slow, heavy, deliberate, moving along the outside wall of the cabin. They didn't approach the door. They circled, one full loop, a pause, then another. Sarah's hand found Ethan's in the dark. She gripped so tightly his fingers went numb. They lay there, watching the window, waiting for a shadow to cross the glass. Nothing passed. No shape, no silhouette, just footsteps pressing into the earth. Then, the crying started. A woman's voice, not screaming, just crying. The kind that sounds like it's been happening for a very long time, like the person has forgotten why they started and can't remember how to stop. It echoed between the trees, rising and falling, Nearer than far, then near again, Sarah whispered.
Please, tell me you hear that.
Just moving deeper into the forest until the tree swallowed it completely. Then his phone lit up. No vibration. No notification sound. Just light. Siri activated on its own. Mara is here. Sarah gasped. Ethan grabbed the phone with both hands, shaking. No signal. No Wi-Fi. Airplane mode on since they arrived. Siri shouldn't have been able to function at all. They were packed before sunrise. They didn't discuss it, they just moved. Halfway down the mountain, one bar of signal flickered to life. The first thing that loaded wasn't maps. It was an old local forum, archived, barely functioning. A thread titled, "Has anyone else heard crying near the old rental cabins?" Dozens of replies. Years of them. A woman had disappeared in these mountains. Decades ago. Young. A photographer. Went hiking alone. Never came back. No body ever. People wrote about hearing a woman cry at night. About mirrors that felt wrong. About reflections that moved on their own. About cabins that felt occupied, even when they weren't. Near the bottom of the thread, one comment. No username. No date. If your phone activates without being touched, leave before sunrise. She travels through reflection. Once she's in the glass, she's already in the signal. They didn't finish reading. Ethan started driving. As they left the mountains, his phone buzzed once. A Siri activity log. Neither of them had made a single. How do I make them stay? Sarah's voice was barely steady. It's using the phones. Ethan stared at the road. They thought leaving meant they were safe. The city welcomed them back with noise. Traffic. People. Light everywhere. For 3 days, nothing happened. That was the most frightening part. Then the search history started. On Sarah's phone, how long can a presence survive in a reflection? On Ethan's, can a signal carry memory? Neither of them had typed them. They reset everything, changed passwords, disabled every voice assistant. The searches kept coming back. One evening, Sarah opened her camera by mistake. Normal apartment, normal walls. Until the reflection in the hallway mirror came into frame. Something stood just beyond the glass. Pale, still, positioned like it had been there for a while. She dropped the phone. That night, all 3 devices lit up at once. Phones, tablet, no vibration, no sound, just light. Siri on all 3, simultaneously. She sees you. After that, the apartment changed. Words appeared on the mirrors overnight, not carved, not scratched. Written in condensation, like breath on cold glass. S-T-A-Y. They covered every mirror with bedsheets. The words appeared on the fabric instead. Scraping sounds inside the walls, moving room to room, like something learning the shape of the space. Sarah stopped sleeping. So did Ethan. 2 weeks later, Ethan found Sarah's journal open on the kitchen table. Her handwriting, but not her words. The sentences looped, repeated, the same phrases cycling through the page. She was so tired. She only wanted someone to stay. She walked too far and the signal found her. She has been in the glass since then. She forgets sometimes what she looks like from the inside. He heard Sarah in the other room, making coffee, moving normally, humming quietly. He walked to the doorway. She looked up and smiled. "Morning. Sleep okay?" He looked at her face. Her eyes. Something in them caught the light differently than he remembered. Not wrong enough to explain, just wrong enough to notice. "Did you write in your journal last night?" he asked. She tilted her head. "I haven't written in it in weeks. You know I gave up on it. She turned back to the counter. And that's when Ethan understood. Fully. Finally. With a cold clarity that moved through him like water. Mara hadn't been trying to make them stay in the cabin. She hadn't been following them. She had been looking for a way in. And somewhere between that mountain and here, she had found one. His phone lit up on the counter. No touch, no voice. Siri, flat and quiet, Mara is here. Sarah turned around, smiling. Who's Mara? She asked. She genuinely didn't know. Ethan smiled back and said nothing, because he didn't know how to tell her that the person standing in his kitchen, holding that coffee mug, wearing her face, might not be her at all. She never left the mountains. She just stopped needing to. She no longer lives in that cabin. She lives in the reflection you just glanced at, the one that blinked last.